On this week's Pack Show, we drive a new Jag, reveal the best buys on used Ferraris, look at the pros and cons of running a truck as a company car, and hitch a ride with a bunch of gumballers. When it comes to being patriotic, the Germans would rather give up their bratwurst than their Volkswagens. C'est incroyable! The French are quite happy to eat snails as long as they can drive a Renault. In the land of roast beef and Yorkshire pud, we don't get that much opportunity to be that patriotic until now. So, give Britannia a nudge and get out the flag, because there's a new all-British-built car about to be launched. But before you get too excited, there's more of a hint of sushi about this car than fish and chips. The new Toyota Avensis. In the past, mention this Japanese manufacturer to some of motor journalism's top names, and you probably witness an outbreak of the sleeping disorder narcolepsy. People have been a bit sniffy about the previous Toyota, you know, very reliable, very practical, but would you really want to be seen behind the wheel in one? Not helped, perhaps, by some of the comments made by the motoring fraternity. One particular motoring journalist, who shall remain nameless, said, and I quote, "The Toyota Carina is duller than Doncaster." But still, people keep buying these cars. Why? Well, reliability and low running costs are a big factor. But up against the public perception of other top brands, Toyota realise that's no longer enough. I tell you what they want. They want people to be able to react. When you say, "I bought the new Toyota Avensis," they want them to kind of go, "Oh, really?" Not, "Oh, really?" That's the difference. Most of us are going to be buying the 14 grand 1.8. This car is the 2-litre. Now, to be honest, it's not a sporty driving experience. You're not going to be throwing it around corners, but Toyota say it wasn't aimed at that. This is about stress-free driving. That's what this is about. It's about comfort. I think the word is cruising. Cruisers come in all shapes and sizes, but this is no speedboat, it's more ocean liner. And stylistically, it's quite a mixture. The lights, rather vectorish. The front grille, very Volkswagen, and that's deliberate, because that's the market that this car is aimed at. There's also a feeling of a Lexus to it. Now, I'm no fan of Alan Partridge's taste in jerseys, but I do like a Lexi. And aha, this car has got a Lexus feel to it in terms of quality and solidity, and it certainly passes the clug test. Aha! Boys, fancy seeing you here.
Hey, Jez, I really don't think this disguise is working, you know.
Knowing me, knowing you.
Right, now I have to watch the way I say this, but the name of the chief engineer, Mr. Fukusato, and you don't get to say that many times on television, Mr. Fukusato is a man obsessed. The man obsessed with two things, Trabants and hi-fis. This is a bit where I talk about how good the stereo is, how good the CD player is, and everyone's going, "Oh, how boring." But this is a man who is so obsessed. He built this amazing speaker system in his own garage because he wanted this system to be the best ever. And then he's kind of miniaturized it and put it in here. In fact, some people say it's even better than the one in the Lexus.
Aha!
Alan Partridge, eat your heart out.
Knowing me, knowing you.
I'm told that it's got plenty of woofers in it. Oh, no, not woofers, not woofers. Woofers. So woofers and tweeters and all those things. But what I do know is that the sound is perfect, which gives you kind of a whole idea of what they want to achieve with this car. This has to be perfect. All the cars are going to be built at Burnaston in Derbyshire, and Toyota has said they have to be 100%, particularly in terms of reliability. And in fact, the lowliest person apparently on the production line can stop a car if they feel it doesn't reach that benchmark. I did have a thought, well, that'll be popular, wouldn't it? But anyway, that's what they say. Now, the majority of us will go for this one, the hatchback, because we're obsessed with hatchbacks in the UK. However, for my money, I'd go for this one, the Estate. Although, of course, we don't say Estate anymore. One says Tourer because it sounds so much smarter. At least that's what manufacturers think. Now the question is, do I like the car? Do I like the car? Do I like the car? Well, yes, I do. And I know lots of people are going to be very snippy about that. Another motoring journalist is going to say, oh, Toyota. But I like the car. I like the feeling. I know I haven't got the performance. I even like the look of it. I like the look. Particularly, I have to say, the Touareg.
I hate to say this, Jez, but I think old Michelle might have a point about this car.
Knowing me, knowing you, it's the best I can
What a shame they've missed the bus.
And now here's some totally gratuitous shots of fast cars just for the boys. Oh, I'm James Allen.
This is the infamous Gumball Rally.
Totally addicted to bed.
The idea is simple. Race 3,000 miles across country on public roads as fast as possible without getting arrested. Last year's event took the Gumballers to America and turned out to be the road trip of a lifetime for 6 lads from London.
We did it for shits and giggles, really. It was kind of getting a load of mates together, tearing the arse out of America in 3 fantastic cars. We had some sort of quite nice cars in the collection, but we really needed a sort of flagship car for it. So we picked up this car here, which is a 1959 Ferrari California, one of only 40 made, somewhere between the cost of a Fiat Uno and a small country like Wales.
The Gumball has a cult following, and over 180 cars were entered last year. The start line in New York was like a performance car exhibition.
Day one, we're actually off, and Tom's taking up the helm, the wheel.
Actually, on time. Can you take it over?
Not yet, mate. We've done 2 minutes.
Tom was driving the team's support vehicle, a hired 4x4. The idea was to carry the supplies and act as backup for all those unpredictable sports cars. But 20 minutes outside New York, they had a blowout.
We've got a flat tyre.
We got to Washington about 3 hours after that, so this is now sort of 5-6 hours into the race. Our next checkpoint was in Nashville, roughly 11 or 12 hours drive away. So at this point, tensions were running pretty high. This car broke down about 2 miles outside Nashville. The next day, we phoned up a few car dealers in Dallas and found out that one guy had a AC Cobra for sale. Somewhere between the price of a Fiat Uno and a slightly smaller country. Faroe Islands.
With time to make up, the boys were forced to break the old 50-mile-an-hour speed limit. Now, of course, we don't condone that sort of behaviour here on Pulling Power, and neither did the Texas police, who were on high alert for all the Gumballers.
I'm coming.
How's my driving? Dial 1-800-EAT-SHIT.
Very often you got a sort of slap over the wrist, a light fine, possibly a short visit to the county jail, but afterwards they were fairly keen to have their pictures taken with the cars.
And I'm saying to myself,
This is what you're going to get if you speed through Texas.
I'll find myself in the most beautiful situation, a feeling I can't describe.
After talking their way out of serious trouble, more disaster as the boys blew the engine in one of the Ferraris. They hitched a ride to Vegas and hired another one in time for the final leg, a simple 3-hour hop to LA.
Unfortunately, that's a 3-hour drive if you don't have a blowout in Death Valley, which is exactly what we had.
They finally got to LA 5 hours late, missing most of the after-race party at the Playboy Mansion.
As a result of our dogged determination to complete the rally in the various cars that were bought or rented along the way, we won the Spirit of Gumball, which is the sort of highest accolade that can be bestowed upon a Gumballer. Looking back on the Gumball, it was an awesome experience. It's a great thing to have said that we've done as a group of friends, all with one goal of ripping across America in the shortest possible time.
And not satisfied with entering just once, Tom and the boys are doing it all again. And this time, so are we. This year's Gumball is from San Francisco to Miami, and we'll be bringing you all the action when Pulling Power returns to your screens later in the year.
The Jaguar XJ. It's a classic, but it's a classic that's in need of a major update. Inside, outside, and under the bonnet. An evolutionary rather than revolutionary redesign is long overdue. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to present to you a class act. The latest 7th generation Jag XJ. Now, I know what you're thinking, it's one of those cheap mid-term facelifts, but nothing could be further from the truth, because this is completely new. The exterior, the engine, the interior, and of course that means the driving experience too. Now, I really cannot overemphasise just how important this car is to Jaguar. You see, the XJ has become over the years the definitive, most important model for the company. It's been in production since '68. Over 800,000 have already been sold worldwide, and that accounts for about half of the Jags ever built. The bad news is that if Jaguar get this one wrong, their Coventry home could end up as a housing estate or retail park. You know, the last car I was driving was the new £250,000 Rolls-Royce Phantom. I've climbed out of that into this. And you're not going to believe this, but I wouldn't lie to you. This, in terms of finish and quality and craftsmanship, is of a higher calibre than the £250,000 Rolls-Royce. I kid you not. We are in the bog standard 39 grand, 3-litre V6. And I tell you, I'll give it 11 out of 10. Now, you don't need to drive a car like this quickly. It's satisfying enough just to glide along in eerie silence. But a range of gutsy engines from 3-litre V6s to 4.2-litre V8s provide all the grunt that you'd ever need for proper high-performance driving. And here's the proof. This is Jaguar's chief test pilot, Mike Cross, taking a 155 mph XJR from his office to the works canteen. But sporting reputation on its own is nowhere near enough. This car needs the right architecture too. And believe me, it's got it. Well, the first thing that's obvious is that with or without badges, this is a Jaguar. Unmistakably, it's got that DNA. It's got this evolutionary rather than revolutionary look about it, the new XJ. Lovely fluted lines here coming up through the bonnet. And like I said, unmistakably Jaguar. Couldn't be anything else. You can't believe it, but this is a very important area. This is the DLO, the daylight opening area. A lot of work went into this. This is basically the core of the car. They just built the car around this area here. And you know, some lovely understated details. You wouldn't know it, but believe me, they probably spent millions actually working this little design touch here. Very difficult since they're building this car in aluminium. The thing about it is, it's very, very understated, but it's very, very Jaguar. But you know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see that little mascot popping out of there, wouldn't you? The space inside this car is something like 40% greater than on the previous generation, the outgoing XJ. But having said that, I'm not sure once they've created this great big void inside, they've then sort of filled it with a lot of gear that's sort of enclosed it, made it a little bit claustrophobic. And, you know, the doors are terribly wide. You've got enough elbow room, but they've created space and then they filled that space. And as for this here, it's a bit like, I don't know, walking into a tiny front room in a little 2-up, 2-down terrace house and seeing a 36-inch widescreen TV in the corner. You know, the TV is too big for the room and all this is a bit too big for the car. But having said that, this is a very refined and quiet and elegant car. It's almost sort of regal in some respects. I'll tell you one thing, Prescott will like it. 3 Jags. Well, apart from the fact that the exterior design is a bit tamer than it could have been much more adventurous with it, you know. I can't really fault this car. And it does beg the question, you know, this new Jag XJ. Why would you need to buy a German-built BMW or Mercedes when you can have a best-in-class, British-built Jaguar?
And coming up in part 2, Tips on buying a used Ferrari.
Now, what can I say about Ferrari that hasn't already been said? For of all the world's prestige car makers, the Prancing Stallion is definitely #1. And if you're lucky enough to be an owner, then you're a member of a very exclusive club. Because even now, with production at an all-time high, Ferrari still imports fewer than 600 cars a year into the UK.
So why is it, when so few people own these cars, that in excess of 20,000 people have come here to Brands Hatch on a wet weekend to celebrate the marque?
Well, the answer to that is easy. You see, Ferrari as a brand has it all: sex, glamour, and a racing pedigree second to none.
Racing is a bit of a common cliche, but it's the lifeblood of Ferrari. For a very long time, racing was the prime objective, and then the road car side was sort of to try and pay for a bit of racing. It's a little bit different now, but racing is an intrinsic part of what we do, and I think it adds to the character of the car.
And it's that unique character and exclusivity that over the years has made the marque so desirable.
This 308 GT4 is probably one of the most underrated Ferraris. It represents, in design terms, Ferrari's decision to change from Pininfarina into Bertone. As a result, the car was not all that popular with buyers, but it still is one of the best Ferrari bargains around. Remember the 80s? Remember Magnum PI? Well, this is the car. Not only did this car have looks to die for, but it's also one of the very few totally reliable Ferraris. In fact, this is one of the best used Ferraris on the market. When the Ferrari Testarossa was introduced, it was Ferrari's most powerful car. But this was a car which really suited the American market. It was known as the Boulevard car because it just didn't handle as well as a Ferrari should. And then there was this, the 512 TR. That put everything right and is the way it really should have been done. Ask me about my personal choice for the day, and I would say it's this, the Ferrari F40. Because this car is the ultimate road experience in a Ferrari. It combines that combination of speed, agility, that wonderful sound, combined with all that power. It's a favorite, it's a driver's favorite. It's the essence of Ferrari on the road. I'd love to be able to call this my F40.
But having said that, why do people spend so much money on a car?
The sound, design, again, it's just the Italian way, it's fantastic.
It's definitely in the blood, there's no doubt about that. It's about your heart, not about your head.
It's just an Italian car, the speed, the design. Every man says they're sex on wheels, it's like a woman.
So, does it really improve your sex appeal?
Oh, I don't know about that. Increases the sex appeal, possibly. Reduces the wallet content also, yes.
Definitely. Everyone, yeah, definitely. The women don't like it. A lot of their husbands' wives don't like it, but definitely, yeah.
I've never noticed. I'm too busy trying to keep it going.
Now, there's absolutely no way I could come along to an event like this and not get a ride.
Can't get in.
Unfortunately for me, my old friend Callum Lockie, a former British GT champion, has offered to take me for a spin in his awesome Racing 360 Modena. And what a ride!
Can't stop addicted to the shindig. Chopped off pieces and one big big. Chose not to like the limitation. The spit us into the reservation. Can't stop the spirits when they need you. This life is more than just a read-through.
Once upon a time, long ago, the Wild West was ruled by the lone gunfighter who travelled from town to town on his trusty steed. But today, for most Americans, the age of the horse is a distant memory, as all modern-day cowboys drive pickup trucks.
Yo, farm boy! Call that a pickup? Why ain't you driving some American iron instead of that rice burner?
I think you better apologize.
What?
I think you better apologize because My truck here has sensitive feelings. He doesn't like it when people laugh at him.
You know, it's incredible, but the humble pickup is now America's favourite vehicle. I reckon it must be something to do with that frontier spirit. But despite the obvious advantages of this versatile, and let's face it, pretty spacious loading area, us Brits have been pretty slow to cotton on to this whole pickup phenomenon. Yeah, right. You know, it might work in Denver, but in Derbyshire, they're having a laugh, aren't they?
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Well, Mitsubishi are deadly serious. This is the LS200 Warrior. And if you believe the hype, forget about the smart car. This is the future of British motoring. This thing is incredibly easy to drive. The controls are very easy, gear shift is nice and light, and the steering is very good as well. In fact, you don't really feel like you're driving a truck, you feel like you're driving a car, and quite a nice car at that. And it's quite well appointed really with all the leather seats, just that little notch above what you'd expect from a pickup truck. By putting a nice plush interior into this vehicle, Mitsubishi are hoping to widen the market, basically. They don't just want to sell these things to builders merchants so they can put breeze blocks in the back. They want your average 4x4 buyer to stick the Labrador in the back as well. So why should we get excited about pickup trucks? Well, for a start, you get an awful lot of vehicle for your 20 grand. And thanks to a tax break introduced last year, if you can persuade the revenue that you really need one of these things for your work, then you can pay a flat rate 500 quid tax instead of about 2.5 grand, which it normally would be. On top of that, your boss will get the VAT back on the purchase price, so everyone's a winner. But be careful, because this change in company car tax is only a temporary ruling, and Gordon Brown may well change his mind in the next budget. Enjoy it while it lasts. An amazing 70% of all new vehicles bought in America are pickup trucks, and you see a complete range of people buying them. And part of the reason, I think, is because of security. People feel invulnerable when they drive a pickup truck. It's a big, heavy vehicle. It's not just about being able to lug things around. But whereas the vehicles you see in America are giants, this is just the right size, it feels to me. Perfect, certainly, for Britain's roads. 2.5-litre turbo diesel engine pulls the thing along very, very nicely. It's got about 113 brake horsepower, which is quite enough, even when you've got a heavy load on board. And you can keep the most amazing things in the back. Oh, no. What's this?
Excuse me, sir, do you know what the speed limit is down here?
Well,
What's that in the back? Right, you're coming with me. You can switch that camera off as well.